the Bulldogs and the way they're going as a genuine chance to get a win?
Oh, we approach every game in that manner. They've been in some solid form. I think they've won their last couple of games, and they're a bit of a young team like we are. So it'll be interesting to see how we go compared to them at Etihad Stadium, where they traditionally play some pretty good football. But yeah, like all games, we're going down there to try and put our best foot forward and try and get the points.
Expecting one to play?
I don't know. I guess they're training today, and a little bit more information will emerge. I wouldn't have any idea whether he'd play or not at this point.
Would you either type of coach just prepares as if he's going to be there?
You always prepare for the opposition's best team, so that's how we've talked all week.
You played at Etihad in round one, and you said afterwards that you thought the players probably went a bit quick sometimes. They got caught up in the nature of that ground. Have you spoken about that this week, or anything you learned from that?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We sort of hopefully learnt that lesson from it. It was a little bit different back then too, because it was our first game for the season, and we're coming off playing off a game in the wet down at the Gold Coast against the Gold Coast. So it wasn't brilliant preparation, but now that we're back on the Gabba and it's a little bit similar, I guess, to playing at Etihad, I think we'll be reasonably well prepared for that.
Hey, Fags, are you surprised the Lions player hasn't been nominated for Ryan Stadium?
That's a hard question to answer. I've given absolutely no thought to that. I mean, I know Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner have been in pretty good form. I guess what we hope is in some stage this year they will be nominated. They've played footy that's deserving of nomination, but it's a little hard for me to answer that because there's a lot of young players that play each weekend and I don't get to see them play, so it's hard for me to compare the form of our boys to theirs. I've got no doubt the people who select it try and do it fairly.
What about Alex Witherdrum?
Oh, Alex is another one, isn't he? Because his numbers have been outstanding. It's a good point you make. I actually thought a couple of weekends ago that perhaps he could have been re-nominated, but they went for somebody else. But it's not all about that. It's a team game, and he just keeps playing well. That'll all handle itself.
And Dane Zorko silenced his critics pretty brilliantly on the weekend, would you say?
Yeah, he did, but it's one of those things that you've got to do week after week after week. So it was good for him, good for the club that he was able to work his way through what's been a pretty challenging period. But I've got no doubt there'll be more challenges coming, probably another one on the weekend. So I think he's a little bit better prepared for it now.
Is everyone getting a little bit frustrated that so much effort's going in and the reward in terms of wins hasn't quite come yet?
I think, I'm not sure whether you call it frustration or not. Certainly we'd like to have got a bit more reward for our effort because we think our effort's been really good and we've played a good style of footy that's stood up against some good teams. But we know if we just keep trying to improve and not get too frustrated that we'll get there in the end. You've
been right in like a lot of matches. 3 of them into the last minute basically, and I think 5 in the last quarter. You've been really close. Is there anything you can learn directly? Sometimes these things take time, but you've had a lot of experience in close matches already. Is there anything you might have taken from those matches that you can use going forward? You always look at your composure in those sorts of games, and sometimes there's a tendency for your team to rush it or force it and not stay composed, and there's been a little bit of that in us. That's partly because we're an inexperienced young team, so that's just all part of the learning.
Is it moments? You're looking back at moments and going that there's a moment gone begging for us, a choice, a decision. Is it getting down to that now, that finite? Yeah, you do. It's particularly in the last 5 minutes of games. But I look back at last week's game and some of the other ones where we were close. You know, last week we had a fantastic first quarter with 18 inside 50 entries and kicked 3 goals, and there was the game. Yeah. So, you know, it's all right to look at the last 5 minutes and zone in on that, but we look at the bigger picture and the opportunities that weren't taken during that period of time, which is probably a bigger reason why we lost last week. What do you think the change has been? Last year you finished the year off as the second most efficient side going inside 50, and this year you're around 17, 18th and about 17, 18th for inside 50s as well. Obviously there's a correlation there, but what do you think that change? That's a massive turn. That's a massive leap back the other way.
Yeah. We're playing a bit differently though. Yeah. We're getting more inside 50s ourselves, so we're having to you force a turnover in your front half, and you've then got to kick the ball back into a crowded forward line. Whereas last year we were defending so many inside 50s, and most of our attacks forward were coming from way back. So you got the fields a little bit bigger. So we just got to get better at kicking into a crowded forward line. It's a good problem to have. It means that we're becoming a better team, but we have to adapt to that.
And then chat with some of the forwards tackling inside 50, because it's another one where obviously so many things are on the improve, which is fantastic, but that might be another area where your numbers are down a bit on last year.
No, they're not down on last year.
I'll check that. But
yeah, no.
Where you're sitting at the moment in the league, they're at the lower end.
Yeah, we are, although last week we weren't.
Yeah.
So we addressed that in our training last week, and we kicked more goals from forward half turnovers in the game last week than we have in any game this year. I think we kicked 6 goals too, which I think our next best effort was 3. So you can't fix everything at once though. Like, you got a young team, and it's like putting pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together. You get one thing right, and then another thing pops up, but it just takes that period of time for them to master everything. But the little problems that we're having are good problems, because they're evidence that we're actually improving as a team.
What's making you the happiest at the moment?
Oh, just the attitude of our players every week to come out and compete. I don't think we could really question that. We had the one bad game against Richmond, but they appear to be doing that to most teams that they play against at the moment. So that's been an anomaly in our season. The other 6 games we've been highly competitive against some pretty good sides. So Collingwood being one of those, they've been in great form.
Does it surprise you when your team was able to front up the way you just said? You spoke of being proud of that, being happy with that. Does it surprise you when you're 0-7 that they keep coming back like that?
Well, it depends what you focus on within the 4 walls of your footy club. If you just focus on that, it could be a pretty dismal place. But we don't actually. We just always looking for those little signs of improvement, trying to get better all the time, pointing that out when it happens so that the environment's a positive one. And that's what we'll continue to do, because that's the only way to get better, really.
You had a big, tall forward line last week and quite tall defensive unit as well. Dogs don't have many talls at either end. Will you have to change your structure a bit this weekend, do you think?
No, we probably won't make too many changes to our team. I don't think. It was good to keep some continuity. The boys that played last week played really well. We'll back our system in. We don't always want to just react to whatever the opposition bring, and hopefully we can challenge them with some of the things that we have that are different to them.